two, one.
All right, welcome to Chaos Media BM Sessions, episode number four.
Number four.
Four it is, yeah. On it's May 5th of 2017. We decided to pick a topic today. We're gonna, I think, over the next little while, we're gonna stick to a topic and just kind of maybe do episodes discussing that. Yeah, I also apologize for the camera today. Matt was just telling me to get my fucking hands off the table and I'm still doing it, but we're just using my a laptop web camera, and we know it's awful, but by next episode we want to have it have a solution, and
We did have a plan for this episode, but it just hasn't panned out. So we're doing this again.
we've been having a lot of camera difficulties. It's pretty lame, but we're gonna get the camera set up next time, and it should be
Turn down the suck.
mm-hmm.
Turn up the awesome. Here we go.
Yeah, but like we said, we're gonna have episodes where we are sticking to a topic. So this episode, we're gonna be discussing spirituality.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or should I say, oh. Yeah. I'm definitely excited to talk about this topic. I've had a long history with spirituality myself, so I could definitely speak a whole bunch about it. And Brian, he's apparently our spirituality specialist.
Yeah, spirituality's been a big thing for me throughout my life. I think it kind of started, as a lot of people do, I've dealt with a lot of struggles in my life, mental health challenges, and looking for solutions to that and fulfillment in your life that typically or often leads people down a spiritual path. So it started with that, with a seeking, kind of, as a lot of religions indicate, from suffering. That's a lot of what the Buddha talks about. Seeking, life is suffering, and so finding through spirituality, or for some people religion, various ways to sort of
cope and
find fulfillment in their life. And it's definitely, for a good 5-year period in my life, was a pretty big focus for me, walking that spiritual path. Many different, I experimented with, well, I would meet with and I would study with many different religions, Eastern and Western. I was just very interested in learning what these people had to say.
Religions are fascinating in themselves. Like, even if you don't want to jump on board with the faith, but just learning their sort of histories and like the sort of things they have to say, like, it's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I really get down with a lot of the mythologies. Even the fabricated ones, like the Norse gods, or the Greek gods, as they were.
Yeah.
I love those gods. Like, even fantasy novels and stuff like that. Like, their mythologies, I don't see how that's much different than any sort of, like, recognized church. In my opinion, they're not a lot different.
Totally. Well, it's the one thing that I was trying to get to the root of when I was studying all the different religions that I was, is that they're all pointing to the same essential principles. For the most part, there are some religions that are doing.
They're a little out there, a little hateful.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you're talking to most religions talk love, acceptance, understanding,
exactly,
peace.
Sure, for sure. And these stories and these archetypes are really just pointing to that essence, and that is what I was kind of trying to discover on my spiritual journey. And like I say, I practice Buddhism, of various types of Buddhism. I met with, like, I was the only the only white guy in this Hindu temple this one time while they're all doing their Sunday morning worship ceremony, and I was just there to
check it out.
Yeah, to check it out. And
I mean, there's often opportunities to come join churches to check it out, right? I mean, most of them are pretty open-minded and willing to take new people in, for sure. I think they're desperate to take in new people, most of them. But I mean, there's a mosque by my buddy's place. Like every Sunday, almost, you can just they have a Facebook thing. They're like, come check out our mosque, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. They're definitely open-minded in that regard. I know the United Church, they're super open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really impressed by their work on the gay rights and stuff like that.
Yeah, the church, the one just behind me over here. Viewers aren't gonna know what we're talking about, but it's a United
in
Church.
Kensington here, in Calgary.
And it has right out front the rainbow pride flag.
Which is awesome to see.
Mm-hmm,
You want to see inclusion.
Yeah, I also in my journey have met with a lot of Christian groups. I met with, regrettably at the time, I took an invitation to meet with some Mormons.
Oh,
I was legitimately interested in Mormonism, so
I
wanted.
love Mormons actually.
Yeah.
They're some of my favorite people. They're like such good spirited and like they're not dragged down by the bogs of like sugar and this other stuff because they don't believe in it and yeah, they seem to be a little bit out there in some ways, but mostly like really nice people. I always invite Mormons and stuff in. I thought they were a lot of fun to talk to personally.
Yeah, so I was well, they were out on the street evangelizing or whatever, and they
doing their thing.
Yeah, they gave me their card, and I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll come hang out with you guys. I'll see what you're about. I'm interested in spirituality, obviously, and all these different religions. So I went, and I kind of just wanted to go and check it out and learn their views, but then they would not stop calling me for weeks and weeks.
They're persistent.
Yeah, I just like would not stop.
Well, because you probably came there with an open mind, sort of thing, and like you didn't say bad stuff about it. So like, this is a thing we can work on this. Like we can.
Well, and then I was even talking to them. I was like, I'm on a sort of spiritual journey of my own. I go to Buddhist meetings and meditate too. I find benefit in that. I don't think that your view of Christ being the only way is correct. And I spoke to them about that, and so it's yeah. Mormons, they don't stop no matter what you say, and that's the one thing about.
Well, no, hold on. I can get Mormons to stop. You can troll the crap out of them, and they will leave you the hell alone. You just act like cancer, like a troll. Like, yeah. They recognize that as like hateful sort of. You're in need of help, but not ready to join the church is sort of your status at that point. So yeah, it's easy to chase people away, dude. But I mean, I've had a long experience and history of chasing away religious beliefs, essentially. I was actually raised in the Catholic faith, in Catholic schools and whatnot. I ended up going to I didn't realize it was a different church. It was a Christian church. Honestly, doing both, I was like, what's the difference? Like, there's you eat some stuff in this one, you play some music in the band in this other one. Like, it didn't seem like a big difference to me. Everyone's talking about the same book, right? Didn't seem very different. So I stopped the Catholic thing at confirmation because at that point you're supposed to ask all the hard questions, right? And they don't have answers. They've got oh well, search the Bible. There's some good stuff. I'm like, there's all this terrible stuff. What's up with that? How do we feel about that? And it's like, well, it's you can use it. It's like, no, you can't use it. It's hateful crap. I'm a teenager, right? So it's like you just can't be told anything at that point, right? So I kicked the Catholic faith, and then a couple of years later, kicked the Christian one as well. I was still in a youth group, going on the weekends and stuff like that. Yeah, I was a cool kid. Cool kid. But yeah, so kicked all that and looked at Buddhism and stuff like that and Hindi and looked into Islam a little bit, of course, and then I heard about these different weird religions like Jen and stuff like that. where they don't
Yeah.
even want to like breathe in insects or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're just super pacifist.
Yeah, I got
Um,
involved in a some of those, more esoteric, I guess would perhaps be the word.
Cults.
Essentially,
You might
essentially, yeah, cults.
cults.
One of them, Ekankar. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they also approached me on the street, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll
What do you
same
got?
scenario. Yeah,
Show me what you got.
exactly. So I went to one of their meetings, and they're very much a cult. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but that's what there are. They're a tight knit group of people. You have to have a membership, which you pay for, and
Everyone gets their own Kool-Aid.
yeah, their book though is like they're talking about astral projection and leaving your soul and the seven. I think it was seven planes of reality, and that's what you're learning about in their meeting.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
read about that in Marvel Comics, I'm pretty sure.
exactly. Yeah. And then and we would all sit around the table, and it's sort of like how in Hinduism they have the Om, which is like the essence,
Centering of self.
yeah, the essence of that universal presence. They had Hugh, so we're all sitting there, and you go like Hugh,
You
yeah, and yeah, exactly, everyone, and then like
man.
the leader of the group,
I wouldn't be able to stop saying man.
the leader of the group, it was like hard for me to not start laughing because everyone's doing it, and of course you go on for like 10 minutes, doing
Commitment.
Hugh, and the leader he starts changing his voice, and he's like Hugh, and I was like,
Like
whoa.
Jack Black up there.
Yeah, I was like, what have I gotten into? What's next? He's like,
Next, he, like,
sacrifice or
Whips off the friggin' gown and he's there in
Oh,
a
yeah.
G-string and just friggin'
yeah.
oiled up and ready to go. Like, yeah, that's a crazy thing about cults. But I mean, like, I don't see cults and religions as all that different either. This is a popular joke I always make. I'm like, what's the difference between a religion and a cult?
Yeah,
Right?
the amount of followers.
No.
No.
Like that's
'Cause
what
that is
that's
one-
that's what a lot of people use
Yeah.
as a signpost, right?
Yeah.
But how it goes is in a cult, the leader is the guy that knows everything and is in charge of all that stuff. He knows it's all bullshit in a cult, right? That's a cult. In a religion, that guy's dead.
Totally. Yeah. It's so true, and that's what I almost when I'm looking at what's going on with Kek and the Kekistanis right now. That's what I
Praise
see.
Kek.
That's what I see happening is these people are just pulling these stories out of their ass basically, and we're building like this mythology of Kekistan.
Compelling stories.
Yeah. And I mean, if we didn't have such precise methods of documentation right now, like to know that this is coming from an internet meme, I mean, if this was 2,000 years ago, it could very well fast forward and become a genuine religion at this point.
Yeah, those Egyptians knew some shit though.
Yeah.
Like they praised cats.
Yeah.
They knew the cats were all the thing. They had those pyramids for energy harnessing, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they knew about the stars. They
Yeah.
they had some pretty interesting mythologies. Pretty interesting mythologies.
There's profound knowledge in so many historic traditions that it's. I think one
It's
of
all
our
lost.
biggest blunders today is that we assume that the modern Western way of living is the best way, that our means of whatever
It's the best available potentially, but we can do a lot better.
yeah, but the means of seeking material wealth and stuff,
Yeah.
that is the
The church of money, as I like to call it.
And I mean, when you go back and look at these spiritual traditions or ancient cultures, they valued something completely different, it seems, a lot of the times, not all the time. some were very materialistic. But if you look at these ancient spiritual teachings, I think that's something that's really missing from our Western society right now, is a sense of
we're missing
traditions and spirituality, if you want to call it that. Just a sense of connection with something deeper than what are in this 3D plane.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are other places to look than religion, actually. I mean, I know up until this, well, the next census I filled out, actually, because the past 6, I believe, I've put Jedi
Yeah.
as my religion.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of people do. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, if you look at the Jedi teachings, it's all about, like, inner harmony and, like, peace with everything around you. I mean, how you
Yeah.
gonna hate that? That seems like what most good religions are about, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun and popular and new,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably a good indicator of why I've decided to change that to Kekistani for the next survey.
Nice.
Just because that'll be a hilarious statistic to see, like how many people register themselves as
Yeah.
free Kekistani
Yeah,
people.
I know. There's a survey going on right now. Is it the municipal one for Calgary, or is it the Canadian one? Because I got something in the mail yesterday about it. So
I have not received.
I was
this
gonna
mail.
I was gonna log on. I didn't last night, but I was gonna check and see if I could put Kekistani, if there was any place I could fill in Kekistani.
You can put other. Yeah, you can
Mhm.
go into other and
Mhm.
you can type it in.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone types the same thing,
Yeah.
it shows up in stats.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's how we got Jedi on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that started in Australia too.
Yeah.
Like that might have been a decade ago, 2007 or something like that. People were starting to put Jedi there, and
Yeah,
it was
I
like
think it was quite a while ago.
30,000
Yeah.
people or something like that.
Yeah. Totally.
And then the next year it jumped crazy to over 100,000 or something like that, just because everyone heard wind of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can do this. I'm gonna put, instead of none, Jedi. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, we haven't seen Sith emerge as a religion yet, but I mean, they're trying to keep it on the down low, right? They're kind of hateful, like, it's not so cool. But I mean, lots of stories have great mythologies that I think, as I said before, are worth every bit of a regular religion, Like, I think that my favorite creation story of any religion has got to be Tolkien. If you ever read the Silmarillion, his least popular book potentially, it's pretty dry in spots. You're like, son of this guy, son of that guy, son of this guy. Oh, man, it just gets super terrible at some points. But it starts strong. It starts real nice.
Yeah.
The creation story is basically, well, in the beginning, God hummed a tune.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty much like, he is in the vastness of nothing, and he like basically hums a tune to himself. He's like, yeah, I like that. That's really cool. I'm gonna explore that.
Yeah.
So he personifies himself in 9 male and 9 female entities, separate from himself. And and they all sing the tune together. And it's awesome. The one god loves it. He's like, you know what? That was so good. Each one of you is going to get its own subsection as well to really flush out the sound. He's making like an orchestra, essentially, is what this guy's doing. And he's
Yeah.
he's got the timing, he's got the pages,
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of joining them on the next sing through, he's like, you know what, you guys, just take it. So that's how the proud part of his personality sort of becomes the evil, like sort of he's trying to play a solo over someone else's solo, essentially, like he's that asshole.
Yeah.
And so like the whole thing gets kind of chaotic, and it's this really wild experience. Some of the people back that guy, other people like try to back the other side. It's this wild song.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, as it dies off, the one being was like, whoa, that was crazy, guys. You guys want to see what you just sang? And obviously they're exceptionally excited. Like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And he shows them the passage of time, which they just sang about, essentially, without knowing.
Yeah.
And it's this, they watch Earth and all of the happenings of Earth, and time passes until the end.
Mm.
And then they're like, all of the creations that he made, they're like, that was awesome. Can we do that? Can we do that? Dad, 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 dad. Like, obviously they're not saying dad, but that's my flavor on it. They so he's like, yeah, sure, go nuts.
Yeah.
So the entities that wanted to be a part of it go down and start, the making the earth and everything like that, and that's so cool. It's all song. That's why there's so many songs in those Tolkien books. It's because everything, all power, is derived through song, essentially. Like Sauron, before he loses his form and becomes an eye in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
He's a shapeshifter. And he has this epic battle with one of the kings of elves. And it's a song battle, essentially. They go to battle singing at each other.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really explain how that all comes. Sauron actually wins. He's pretty boss. He's like there's a reason he's the bad guy in Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is kind of at the end of the timeline. Like, a lot of the elves are leaving the lands, right? They're going back to the land of the gods and all that. It's the end of their timeline, that all the most popular stuff that everyone knows, that's when all that happens. And way at the beginning is this really awesome creation story I wish a lot more people knew about.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool as hell.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, well, like I said, got to get that out there. Is what chaos media is all about. We're trying to get that message out that we think people should hear, that which is unspoken for, give it a voice.
Totally. I was wondering if you could just turn me down a bit.
Turn you down?
I'm a little loud on here. And then I'll just go into something here. I think it was really one of the things you touched on earlier that's really important is you can access spirituality without religion.
Yes, and that was my main point.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different ways to be spiritual or live spiritual than approaching them through conventional religions. And at the same time, I would also say that I think religion, there's so many different ways to interpret religion, and
there's so many bad ways.
So many bad ways, exactly.
Derived.
And even like Christianity, Islam, you name it, there's
pitfalls.
Exactly. And I think people have to be careful about the way that they're approaching religion and what it means to them, because if religion is telling you to kill other people or whatever, it's
a shitty religion,
right? Or the interpretation of it is really poor. So I mean, myself, like I say, I've been through all these different paths of spirituality and trying different religions, and I really do like, I think there's beauty in every religion, but Christianity, for example, I find a lot of beauty in just the teachings of Christ.
JC is beautiful, man.
Yeah. The teachings of love and loving your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. So I really do appreciate a lot of elements of Christianity, and I wish more people would interpret it that way that do. And I think a lot do for sure, but we do have these examples of Catholicism and whatnot gone completely the other direction.
Yeah, like the historical blunders of the Catholic faith, like the going and killing a bunch of people, the Crusades.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
awesome.
Crusades. Yeah.
That's on your history. The whole priests being child molesters sort of thing. That's a big strike against you. You know, like it's not everybody, but it was fairly rampant as far as we know. Apparently, the government's the same way in Hollywood. So what are you gonna do?
Mm,
Apparently, it's everywhere.
mm,
Worms its way into the highest places. You gotta wonder
yeah.
what makes it so attractive. It's really weird.
Well, I think it has something to do with um, when you suppress elements of yourself, they they come out in other ways. So, these priests or whatnot. I don't know a lot about Catholicism, but as far as I know, I mean, they're trying to live a celibate life, right? And then
Yeah,
that humans, that's kind of not our nature. So, often I think
but I
when
mean, our natures were kind of toxic to us at some point, so we
right.
kind of needed this. Hey, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Well,
There
there's
was
always there's always extremes, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
taken a little too far.
yeah, so um
Yeah, like not being allowed to touch yourself. That's a very interesting rule that they made early on. It's like, oh yeah, really? How are you gonna police that? That's a very interesting theory on that one. Good luck.
yeah.
It's just they always overextend.
Oh yeah.
That when religions go bad, they're overextending. I mean, any system when it overextends, yeah, that's when it all falls apart. The
Absolutely. And there's a huge pushback the other direction. I've been noticing that trend a lot lately. Like, we're talking now sort of about religion getting to the far extremes and then people reacting and massively moving away from it. The same thing is happening with like on the left right now in the SJWs, people are moving away from that rapidly because it's just gotten out of control. And I think that
too arrogant.
and yeah, anytime something gets to that like extreme, people really start moving away from it.
It just highlights what's faulty about it. Essentially,
Hmm.
the bad comes out and shines the brightest, and it destroys a lot of things that could be beautiful. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
like social justice is something that we need,
Right,
but
exactly. It's as is religion, well, not necessarily religion, but
spirituality we need.
spirituality, as is.
We don't need religion.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the difference between like all out abandoning something and throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I see elements of Christianity that are awesome, and I
Salvageable.
know some great Christians. Um, but yeah, when it goes to an extreme, it can be completely distasteful. Um, so any religion is that way, and I mean, as I guess what we were talking about, what brought me to that is you don't have to approach it spiritual, spirituality through religion. Um, there's so many different ways, and I don't know. Do you want to talk about some of those or?
Well, I mean, I was already talking about some of the stories that you can read that also provide like
Mm-hmm.
you know uh, moral guidance. Essentially, that's what you're looking for. I would argue that comic books
Mm-hmm.
are one of the best things for moral advocacy. The Marvel movies, any superhero movies, they all teach like the highest of morals,
Mm-hmm.
and the
They're yeah,
giving of one's own
archetypes.
freedoms in order to provide freedoms for others. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is yeah, those beautiful archetypes. Like this is the way. This is sort of like a religion
Well, isn't it funny
emerging,
that
right?
in this generation and state of the world right now, where people have really moved away from religion for a variety of reasons, are now, we're idolizing these superheroes on the big screen and stuff like
Which are
that's
their own religion.
right. So that's what people are seeking without finding that in a traditional
Place.
religion.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really cool. I'm thrilled to see it because that's where I found a lot of the moral code that I thought made a lot of sense. And, like, part of the backing I had to rail against religion the way I did was, like these books are teaching everything that the Bible supposedly teaches. And if it does have all these horrible things, it denounces them in ways that make a lot of sense, like
Yeah.
you understand why the bad guy is the bad guy.
Right.
It's clearly laid out in really well thought out stories, because these are writers that are writing this. Like, these are jack
Yeah.
anybody's that like
Well, yeah, they're
inhaled some fumes from a burning bush to write a crazy spiritual book, right? Like, who was he a writer? No. He just took a trip and wrote some crap down.
yeah.
Like, are you telling me that that's a better story than what these trained writers writing Marvel comics and other comics? Like, are you saying that's a better story? Are you really trying to make that argument? Go ahead. I'll listen. Like, go ahead and make that argument, but I think you're standing on a thin sheet of ice there, man. And you can poke all kinds of holes. And, well, you can poke holes in a lot of comic books as well, because you get bad writers and, things get dropped. But, I mean, the best stuff, I'd say it way outshines the best stuff of the Bible or any religious text.
Mm-hmm.
Any.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to sort of talk about some of the other paths, like meditation was a big thing for me for a
Ooh,
while.
I love meditation.
I was very involved in a variety of Buddhist groups. Vipassana, which is insight meditation, so it's you're meditating to sort of look inward and ask yourself questions. Um, Also, and more than that, perhaps Zen Buddhism was something I was very involved with. I had a sort of a teacher at one point, and we would meditate and discuss how Zen Buddhism and Buddhism kind of correlates with our lives and our spirituality. And through that, I learned a lot about meditation. I did a lot of it for a long time to get in touch with that inner stillness and almost emptiness, you could say, which I think is what a lot of people are running from.
Ooh, yeah, totally. Just sneak that in there, eh? Like, when you're quiet inside and you can hear yourself,
Mhm.
sometimes you can hear the arrogance and the ego that you put out there without thinking about how that might affect some things, right? Like, you have these moments where you're like, damn, am I an asshole?
Yeah.
Like, that's you find those moments a lot in those quiet moments of clarity during meditation, and it helps
Mhm.
you identify that sort of stuff and allows you to self-improve in
Mhm.
ways that are massively profound, like
Yeah.
that's what the spiritual experience honestly should be about.
Mhm. Mhm. And you
Why
just mentioned
meditation's important, right?
one of the things you just mentioned there was ego, which I haven't even brought up yet, but that was a big part of my journey, was learning about ego in sort of the Eastern spiritual sense. I read one of the books that first woke me up to it was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He's been a big figure in kind of the New Age movement. He's all over Oprah for a while. But the book is about being present, being aware in the moment of now, and how our ego kind of separates us from that. That we are not our thoughts, we are not these ideas. We're something deeper, and through you know.
Personified through thoughts and ideas, but yeah, there
Well,
exists
that's our
a
that's our
plane,
ego though. That would be the.
the personification itself.
Yes, I mean our so we're the way I look at it personally, if I step back from all these religions, and the one thing that I think is central to them is, we're sort of a soul incarnated in this body. So
Meat bag.
we do need to have an ego in this world. We need to have that sense of self, and that, I mean, if you ask anyone who's a successful person in terms of business or sports, or you think things in this Western world, they're going to have an ego Like,
Very strong core beliefs.
yes.
Very strong, because you have to galvanize yourself around something, right? And that core belief in themselves essentially provides that, or at least maybe not galvanized or the catalyst, or it's a useful tool, very useful tool.
I also had a thought when I was studying Buddhism and ego in general, which I will include. I'm going to write a follow-up book to the book I'm writing right now, and the follow-up book will be about spirituality, since that's actually more how I approach the world than through politics or anything. It just happens that we're in a very interesting time, so I've
jumped on the politics bandwagon.
Been sucked into that.
Hey, it's fun.
But I had this thought when I was on my journey that the Buddha kind of says nothing is permanent. That's one of sort of the laws of Buddhism, is things are impermanent, and if we cling to something that's impermanent, we will experience suffering. And as I was meditating, because trust me, I spent a big period of my life focused on this stuff, just on the spiritual journey. And as I was, and I still am. It's never an ending
ongoing
thing.
process.
Yeah. But
as all spiritual journeys typically are, they might go on hiatus for a while, but that you can pick it back up anytime.
But there's this concept of enlightenment, and I spent so long, I was so fixated on becoming enlightened, and that was my prime focus in life. And then I realized that enlightenment is, it's not permanent. That's the law of impermanence that the Buddha himself states. So, I mean, you can come to a state where you have sort of the tools to be an enlightened being, but you're going to experience things in life. Life throws you curveballs, and you're not always going to be in that peak condition where you're peaceful and stuff. That every one of us is human. We have a soul underneath that, and that's what we want to get in touch with. But nobody is perfect. One of the scenes that really stuck out at me in the movie Gandhi was that 3-hour, 4-hour movie, is when he, at one point in the film, he lashed out and got angry, and he was like, why am I like this? And his wife was like, well, you're only human. And each one of us, we have these mythical ideas of Christ and a Buddha and stuff, but at the end of the day, Jesus was a person, Buddha was a person, and nobody's perfect. The idea of sin or whatever, I mean, we're all going to make mistakes in our lives and so forth. So how that approaches to his enlightenment is, I just kind of gave up with the idea of needing to find some state of enlightenment. Like, it's not something, I'm not going to sit there and one day in the middle of meditation realize I'm enlightened and everything else from here on out in my life is going to be peachy. I'm going to face I was legitimately, as a spiritual seeker, that's
thought you were gonna get there, right?
As much
You're
as
climbing that mountain thinking there's a summit.
Totally. As much as in the West, Christianity and Western religions are about indoctrinating these ideas, it's the same is true in the East, and you have all these people seeking enlightenment, and that I was totally on that bandwagon, like, oh, I gotta find enlightenment, and when am I gonna be enlightened or whatever. It was crazy.
Frustrating journey.
Yeah, until I realized I just came to different views on what enlightenment is. I think you can have experiences of enlightenment. Those are your peak moments. And
high water marks.
Yeah, when you're in a sort of an altered state of consciousness and aware of your universal oneness with everything.
Yeah, the effect and influence and how everything's intertwined so intricately in ways that we don't fully understand.
Totally.
Yeah, those are beautiful moments if you can achieve them. Meditation is a road to that, but I mean, there's other roads for sure. It depends. Not everyone can take the same road. Is why there is different religions, right?
Well, and I want to full on go there now is one of the ways in which I believe that people can go there is through the use of psychedelic drugs.
Full on.
It's
Shamanism is a religion.
absolutely, it's a practice that's been around for God knows how long in all these different God literally knows how long now, but in all these
I'm not convinced he's paying attention to how long it's been. I don't think that's on his list of things he's looking at. He's got such a wide scope. I'm sure that's a minor detail.
So, anyways, shamanism has been around for thousands of years in all these different cultures where they're using psychedelics to explore different areas of your consciousness. And the fact that now in very recent history, in the last 1 or 200 years, we've outlawed these substances, say like, no, they're illegal, you can't do them. That to me is it's like it's the government trying to control your way of thinking, that they don't want you to have these experiences of spiritual wonder, because that's what they are on psychedelics. I'm not advocating party drugs. Like, I don't like cocaine or heroin or meth or anything like that. Like, that's not where I go. But I'm saying, like, through psychedelics people can have genuine spiritual experiences and
If
incredibly healing, psychologically speaking, experiences.
Very true.
And that is an area of research which is something I'm a strong advocate for in 2017, where in Canada, I mean, marijuana will be legal soon, but as of now, everything except alcohol is
And
illegal.
cigarettes and
Well, yeah,
pharmaceuticals.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about those.
But the psychedelic drugs that give you a genuine spiritual experience, hell no, you
stay
can't
away
have
from
those.
that. Well, I mean, you always hear about these insane things. Like, how did these shamans down in like Peru or whatever? How do they know how to make like the
The ayahuasca, yeah.
Because there's these two completely different plants not found in the same area. And
Well,
you
and the
ask,
one, you can't. The one is, I believe, an enzyme inhibitor,
yes,
so it doesn't.
it
The
allows
solution
you
will
to.
not work unless you have these two plants from completely
They're
different.
very critical together. The way their chemicals work together, it's very interesting. And they want to know, like, how did you know how to do this? Like, you're shamans, like, who told you this is what you're supposed to do? There's thousands of types of vegetative plant life in the area,
And then
in
they
the
say
region.
the plants told us.
Excuse me. The fucking what? But
Again,
that's
it
a
just
very
it goes back to these ancient cultures having profound amounts of wisdom that we're completely
Somehow.
oblivious to today. Um,
I like the idea of studying religious scriptures, not for their spiritual context, actually. I'm interested in their historical implications that a lot of them have. Like,
totally.
that's a super. I think that's something that's underrated at this point. Like the floods in all of the famous.
Yep.
Like, it's not even just in the famous of the religions. Like, there's throughout all the Native Americans, they all have
Right.
flood stories as well, right?
hmm
And like it's just throughout the world. Like, what world event actually caused people to write about these floods, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's a lot of evidence suggesting like water pulse spike 1A and 1B back in like what was that 11 and 13,000 years ago.
hmm
I think that was it.
hmm
So like there's obviously some science being applied to this, but Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson talk about this a couple times on the Joe Rogan podcast. So that's super fascinating stuff to me. They're
Yeah.
using these religious scriptures to do science,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool. A bit of a step away from spirituality, but again, like, science has its own sort of spiritual nature to itself too. Like, there's rituals that they have, there's practices, like they have a set of beliefs that they're going with, right? And it's an awesome religion in that it's self-critical. I think that's what a lot of religions are missing, is that they're not self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I get behind something like a chaos religion, like Kekistani, right? Because it's self-regulating. You can't take it seriously because the blind God laughs at everything, right? Like that's not a solution at all. That's not a solution at all. But I mean, I think Keck is a useful God at this point. I think what he represents is important to society right now. The not trying to
Well,
control things too much.
humor can transform the world. I strongly believe that, and that's
Laughs at
that's
everything.
kind of what's going. It's like that video I showed you the other day, the 24 hours or a day in the life of an oppressed Kekistani, and it's like some ridiculous YouTube video where the guy's just doing a parody of what it's like to be an oppressed Kekistani, and he's like uh, talking about Kekistan. He's like, but none of that matters. All that matters is the lulls.
The Keks.
Yeah, the Keks.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous, and not to mention that they are culturally appropriating immigrant culture.
Cultural appropriation. Oh,
Oh
dear.
man, there's a conversation to
No
have.
kidding.
But we're on the spirituality subject. We should probably hang out there, jump on that one another time.
Yeah. Yeah. How long did you want to go today?
I think we've done a really good job covering
Okay.
the subject matter.
If you had to sum up, if you had to sum up your beliefs, then your personal beliefs, because we're each going to have probably individual beliefs. I think everyone does, and that's the thing about. Before I let you go there, I just wanted to say, when I listen to someone like Sam Harris talk, I mean, he's an incredibly brilliant, laser sharp person, and I'm not sure where he exactly stands. He seems like he associates himself with all these atheists and stuff. So I assume
definitely.
he's mostly an atheist, but he talks about spirituality in a very similar way that I view spirituality. So I'm not totally sure. But at any rate, what I sort of feel, I've had so many experiences in my life, and the thing that tips the scale of, you know, logic and rationality in favor of spirituality to me, like I'm not saying I don't support logic and rationality, but you know, there, obviously spirituality hasn't been proven yet. For if it had, there wouldn't be atheists who are.
Well, no, I mean they believe conflicting things, so you can't prove either one of
Right.
them.
So what I was leading into there is that what tips the scale in favor of spirituality for me is just faith, and that's what a lot of this is. We're holding faith in a lot of ideas, and that to me has proved to live a more fulfilling life, because I was actually an atheist for a while, and that period of my life compared to when I've adopted spirituality, I find life is more enjoyable and fulfilling when I hold a faith in spirituality. So
Yeah, because like without it, you're kind of floundering in the dark almost,
well,
right? Like without a spiritual
mhm,
guidepost, like you're drifting in a black sea, and
yeah,
when the storm comes in, there's nothing to cling to, right?
mhm,
So that's I think I see spirituality as a tool for sure. Like, what do I believe? You say, well, I believe a lot of things. I mean, I like the ideas of, I like the most fantastical, interesting ideas, and I want to explore that stuff. That's I believe in truth seeking. I believe in knowledge questing. I believe you should look inside as well as out.
yeah,
Um, you got to do it all. It's really useful to feel strong and confident about yourself and what you hold true. So I always try to redefine that which I hold true. I want to constantly criticize myself,
mhm,
right? I think
mhm,
that's super important. You need to always ask yourself, what can you be doing better?
yeah,
And going for that. You should go for it as often as possible.
yeah,
you know, it's a people identify with strong beliefs, I've witnessed this. I mean, that's part of what the whole religion cult thing is all about. You believe something strongly, and you galvanize people in that belief, and they follow you. And anytime you have a strong following, um, you can get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I see faith, essentially, right? I mean, spirituality and all that, it's a tool used in order to get stuff done. Okay, well, then you're like, what are we trying to get done? Like, I would say, like, let's take care of the planet and everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a good goal. If we achieve that, maybe we can try something else. But I think taking care of ourselves and that which we can affect is probably the best thing we could be using our time for.
Yeah.
And I just haven't heard a good argument against that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's these anarchists that are like, just do whatever. It'll all work out. Well, no, that's how we destroy everything. Have you seen humans? Have you seen humans? These things are friggin' dangerous, man. You can't just let these things run around without any friggin' moral code, or they'll destroy everything. They're a parasite.
Yeah.
So we have to use the tools we have. Consciousness is one of the tools we have. Spirituality is one of the tools we have. Ego is a tool we have. It's the intersectionality of these things that we have, without question. Those are the tools we got to use, and that's why topics like spirituality and religion cover that sort of stuff and are so important in my mind.
Nice. Cool. Well, I will give my
please.
my beliefs here, and then I think we'll close out the show. So what I believe that consciousness exists in everything. We're all part of this oneness, and through incarnating in the physical form, that created duality. One of the schools of thought I studied was Advaita Vedanta, and it's non-duality, basically. So it's we appear separate. Everything in the world is reflected as opposites, yin and yang. You have male and female, light and dark, and that is also Taoism, which is another thing I've studied. At any rate, what I believe is consciousness and God, or whatever you want to term it, is this force of oneness, this energy underneath all that exists in the physical realm, and that the incarnating in physical, the creation of this world, is just a way for consciousness to experience itself. And that's male and female. That's why sex is the most fulfilling experience, mostly,
other than food.
But it's that connection with another, and through religion allows people a way to approach that, and approach like the fact that, hey, you and I, we're all the same. We need to love one another. We need to not fight with one another. Religion offers you a basic way of looking at that. You don't need religion to know that, though, and that's what I believe. And
be moral without religion.
Sure, or be moral with religion. I don't.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Be moral.
Yeah, exactly. But the world that we have right now is structured so profoundly to make us forget about that, and make us, we're just like ants in a colony going around doing our day-to-day things. We're not really having meaningful human interactions. I'm a barber. I get 30 minutes to have someone in my chair, and half the time we talk about just total bullshit, right? And we're not having real human interactions. And that's a big problem. That's why one of the things people love about going to these festivals that we go to is like you just get to be you and let that out. And that is absolutely something the world needs more of. We need more of that. We need more of that spiritual connection.
Well, it's also super beneficial because people are accepting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're willing to let you be weird. Like,
Exactly.
There's such a taboo against being, not a normie.
Yeah, a normie. Totally.
Freaking normies are on the decline, okay? Normies are not the future. Have you seen this next generation? They're all rainbow children. None of them are normies, okay? Okay, probably some of them are normies, but like most of them are just wild individuals, and it's gonna be fantastic to see this generation grow up and do a bunch of weird shit, like every generation does.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think, spirituality is about approaching that, about recognizing our oneness with all, and therefore that breeds compassion. Um, and I think that's a very important thing that we need in our world right now. That is what's inspired me to write the book I'm writing now, which, it starts out somewhat politically, and I'm talking about what's going on with the right and left right now, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I want to finish with the note of, well, it's spirituality that's what's, in my opinion, what's going to heal us. And if I do write a follow-up book, that'll be the main focus of the book, because I really believe in this spiritual thing, obviously.
And cliffhangers.
Exactly.
Like you talking spirituality at the end of the book, people are like, "Dude, like, what's next? Like, you gotta fill me in on the spirituality thing." Like,
Yeah.
leave them salivating for more.
Hmm.
But
So
yeah,
that's my view, and
it's a good view. Yeah, I didn't talk about the interconnectedness of everything enough when I was speaking.
mm,
So I like that you covered that for sure. That
mm,
that fills in a big part of what I missed when I gave my spiel. So
hmm,
good job, buddy. I liked it.
right on.
Obviously,
Cool.
you deserve the title of spiritual specialist.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, a little more seriously researched than I am, but
Well, we each have different backgrounds, so I think it'll be
everyone does.
cool as the show goes on, to hear us talk.
Go back and forth, discover a little bit more about each other,
Right on.
and hopefully more about everyone that watches and gets in the comment section.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, so that's it for episode 4, May 5th. Yes, it's May 5th of 2017.
Return of the fifth.
We look forward to seeing you next time, and we will have much better video quality, and all in
Promise.
all, hopefully things just keep getting better. So thanks again for watching, and
Doot doodle doot doot.
we're out.